All right, hello everyone. So today we're going to talk about frequency of training and how to avoid overtraining, how to dial in the amount of times per week you should be training. This is actually one of the trickier things that you'll come across in your fitness and health journey, but it is important to get it right. So what makes it really tricky is that you're dealing with a tremendously complex phenomenon here. Obviously, there are genetic factors. Any given individual will have a different base systemic recovery rate than another given individual will, meaning that their body will recover at a different rate than someone else will. So there's a lot of variability in populations of people. But there's also sort of scale independent variability, meaning that you have that variability between individuals, but within an individual, you also have a lot of variability. So somebody's chest might recover much faster than their legs do, for example. And a lot of this will come down to the distribution of type 1 and type 2 muscle fibers. The slow twitch muscle fibers, they tend to recover much faster because they're meant to be used for everyday work, whereas the fast twitch muscle fibers take a lot longer to recover. So if you're a fast twitch dominant person, you won't be able to train as frequently. But that will be okay because you will probably get more of a hypertrophic effect when you do train, given that you are predominantly populated by fast twitch muscle fibers, which have a greater propensity for growth. Okay, so there's genetic factors like that. There's also obviously lifestyle factors, things like how much sleep you're getting, how much stress you have, and it's really important to know that stress does not get compartmentalized by your body. Your body does not know whether you're having relational stress with your spouse versus, you're having problems at work versus you walked home and it started raining and you got real cold and so your body was, temperature was a little bit lower than normal. Okay, these are all maybe different sources of stress, but it all goes in one bucket. And so if you are highly stressed, you are highly stressed, uh, full stop. It's not like I'm highly stressed in this way, but not in that way. And so if you have a high level of stress, you're a very busy person, then you're going to be, your recovery is going to be rate is going to be reduced. It's just the way it is. Okay, so lifestyle factors are another big one. And then there's also the question of how you're training, what kind of training you are doing. If you are going in and training and you're never getting anywhere near failure, then you're probably recovering quite quickly on the muscular side, though I would venture to bet that in the long run, your joints are going to end up not thanking you, and you'll probably have to do quite a bit of recovery just to get them back into working order. Okay, so obviously a lot of variability. That's a reason why it's so difficult. It's also difficult because you can look all over the internet and different programs and different experts, and they'll tell you how often you should be training, which is kind of nonsensical because they don't know you. Unless it's a personal trainer who's an expert at understanding exercise and its effects on the body, and they have some expertise in working with you individually and knowing your lifestyle and how you respond, then whatever recommendations you're getting from that person are arbitrary. I mean, even based upon the science, these sort of work out 3 times a week or hit a muscle this many times a week, they're largely arbitrary. People usually say that those sorts of things in order to sound as though they have expertise, more so than because it's actually based on anything really well founded. And so they don't know you, and they probably don't know the science. The truth is, when it comes to frequency, that frequency alone, frequency as an independent variable, has very little effect on your overall rate of progress, but certainly on the end place where you're going to arrive. So, what does that mean? In the early stages of working out, if you're just getting into exercising, a bit more frequency can benefit you. A lot of that, though, I believe, comes from just being able to practice the things that you're doing more. It's developing a mind-muscle connection. It's developing muscular proficiency. If you're doing barbell lifts or technical lifts, it's developing your ability to do those effectively in a way that's actually going to, push your progress forward in an efficient manner. it's less just the frequency and it's more the practice. And so that's why after a short period of time, you find that frequency, the effects of more frequent versus less frequent basically are equivalent. And so in the end, let's say you reach what you might call your practical limitation, your practical limit, as opposed to your genetic limit, which is kind of a nonsensical term because very few people, in fact, I would say 0 people, will ever reach their genetic limit. I mean, as long as you're not supernatural in terms of the use of hormones or performance enhancing substances, right? Then of course you can outperform your genetic limit. But for people who don't partake of those things, nobody's going to ever reach their genetic limit because for your genetics to be the limiting factor, it would have to mean that literally everything else in your life was perfectly dialed in to not be a limiting factor, right? We'll save that topic for another video, but suffice to say, when you reach your practical limit for things like muscle growth or strength, the groups that trained more regularly and the groups that trained less regularly, higher frequency and lower frequency, they're going to arrive at the same place, right? Higher frequency doesn't raise your practical limit. It just helps you get to that practical limit a few minutes earlier, metaphorically speaking. Certainly it's not a few minutes, it might be a month or two earlier, but in the grand scheme of your training history, training lifetime, these are peanuts. It's peanuts how much difference it's going to cause. So really you need to be thinking about what's going to maximize my overall well-being, not just the speed at which I make progress. Okay, so having said that, then how do you know what your frequency is if all of the recommendations of experts online are basically arbitrary? Well, you're going to have to pay attention to your results and how what you do affects you. I know, crazy idea. The most reliable thing is actually just paying attention to biofeedback. And biofeedback is really a fancy word for how you feel, right? Do you feel rested? Are your energy levels good? Are you moody? Are you is your temper shorter than normal, or are you feeling generally good? How's your libido, right? If your sex drive is through the roof, chances are that you're well recovered and your body is feeling ready for some action of one form or another. Okay, these are things to pay attention to. How well are you sleeping? Can you focus? Are you productive when you try to work? All of this stuff could be considered biofeedback, and it's really the thing that you need to be paying attention to the most. This is a great example of how qualitative data can often tell us a whole lot more valuable of value than quantitative value. You could measure or take all these sort of quantitative measurements, but really, if you're feeling like crap, then you're not recovered enough. The most productive workouts will always be the ones that you're excited to do, the one that you go into with a full head of steam, the one that you're like, yeah, I'm going to kill it today. I can feel my mindset is in that place. Those will always be the most productive workouts. Now, am I saying that there's not a place for people to work out when they don't feel like it? No, absolutely. There are times when that is 100% the right choice. And that could be when someone is struggling to make it into a habit. And they just need to stick to a consistent schedule until they build the repetitions and the familiarity with working out as part of their sort of weekly routine, until it becomes like brushing your teeth. And once it's like that, well, then you can sort of pay attention to how dirty, how gunky your teeth feel as a sign of when you need to brush them. Should you always brush your teeth every day? Sure, but you might want to do it more than once, right? So that's where this frequency question comes back with exercise. Okay, so biofeedback is the gold standard, but you may not have a sense of that yet because you haven't been doing it for long enough. Okay, so should you work out when you're sore? You probably shouldn't work out a muscle that is sore to any high degree of fatigue. However, there is some reason to work out a muscle or use a muscle that is a bit sore if you want to speed the recovery. And this is something that not many high intensity training advocates will talk about, but how do you speed the recovery of a muscle? It's not by letting it just lay there. It's actually by using it, getting that blood pumping into it, that blood that's bringing fresh nutrients and oxygen and all the things that recovery requires. And so I will often use a band or something like that on my in-between days, on my off days, to just get a bit of a pump, get some blood flushed into the muscle. And, this is another kind of incidental workout that you might throw in. And that can actually speed the recovery. Not necessarily you're not necessarily getting better results by increasing frequency. You're getting better results by maximizing recovery in that way. Okay, so that is something to consider. But should you train a sore muscle to a deep level of fatigue? No, probably not. You would want to wait until it feels ready to go again. Okay, two other methods that you can use if you're struggling with the biofeedback method are you can get heart rate, measure your resting heart rate. The best time to do this is like right after you wake up, but before you get out of bed. So you've woken up, but you haven't gotten up yet. Grab your phone, grab your, check your Apple Watch, whatever it is you have that can measure your heart rate. There are tons of free apps that will do it. You just put your thumb over the camera, and the light goes up, and it measures your resting heart rate. You want to establish a baseline or an average for yourself by doing this for a few days, and then from that point on, if you wake up in the morning and your resting heart rate is elevated by 10 or so beats per minute over what your baseline normally is, well, then today's probably a good rest day. I should probably take it easier today because my body is overactive, which means it's trying to make up for some degree of stress that it has incurred. Okay, so that's one method, the resting heart rate method. Another way is to get a grip test dynamometer. It's one of those sort of isometric that you squeeze it with your grip, and it gives you a readout for your grip strength. They're super cheap. They're like $10 or something on Amazon, and just get a baseline for that. Do it a couple days in a row, get a baseline average, and then if your grip strength is significantly lower on a given day, then that's a day when you likely need more recovery than you need training. Your grip strength is so directly reflective of your nervous system activity. You will know the difference when you go to work out and your nervous system activity is not what it should be. Weights will feel much heavier than normal, especially if you're doing stuff like, back squats or bench presses or things like that, things where you can normally handle a heavier load. The load will just feel a whole lot heavier. It's a weird, mysterious feeling, but it's absolutely the case. And those of you with any experience will probably know what I'm talking about. Okay, so those are two methods. You could use the heart rate, you can use the grip test, and then obviously paying attention to biofeedback. That's really the gold standard once you have developed your literacy, let's say, with those feelings. All right, so hopefully that's helpful. Keep in mind that once you have figured out what frequency works for you, that doesn't mean it's always going to work for you that way, right? Pay attention as your life changes. Maybe you have kids, maybe your kids move out, maybe your job changes. All of these things can absolutely change what frequency is appropriate for you. So you're looking for, it's a dynamic recommendation or a dynamic ideal that moves and shifts as your life does. So unfortunately, not an easy answer, but I believe it's the right answer in this case. Okay, thanks so much. If you're interested, the newest program, Synergy Strength Split, is still available for the lowest price available on Udemy down there. You can check that out. It's still up on sale for another 2 weeks or so. So I appreciate all the support and everything. A lot of good reviews, a lot of good feedback already coming in from it. And then just those of you who like and subscribe, and post and all that kind of, the YouTube nonsense. Man, I appreciate it so much. Okay, have a great day, everyone. Go earn it.